Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. You may have noticed that I have not been around for the last, 3 or 4 weeks. I took my own advice. I tell you guys all the time, let me adjust my chair here. I tell you guys all the time, get off the internet, go touch some grass, be one with nature, talk to real people. That's what I did. After I got back from Florida and Tennessee, I said, you know what, I opened up a couple of these stories I'm going to be doing tonight, and I read it and I went, I'm done. Like I gotta find some sanity. So I just literally have been off the internet for the last couple of weeks. I've been enjoying Elden Ring, which I still plan to be streaming or playing or doing something here on a live stream over here on Locals. But you know, it is what it is. You gotta save your sanity. And for every 1, 2, 3 crazy stories I put out, I'm reading 8, 9, 10, 15 like stories that are just as bad, just maybe they don't make a good video. So I'm inundated all day with really negative stuff, and I just need to get away from it. So that's what I've been doing. All right, let's jump over to the main story here. Modern society only values lust, not love. Now, what's interesting is I think many men, when they're younger, well, let's say from 15 to I don't know, maybe 25, 26, 27. We're all about the lust. Like, we're fine with that. We'd like to, you know, just have our fun with the girls. And then when it gets time to settle down, we'd like to settle down. Unfortunately today, though, the, quote, lust phase for women is extending well into their 30s, sometimes knocking on 40, and that's when they decide they want to settle down. The problem with that is that by that time, a lot of guys have realized that, you know what, she went out and had fun with all the other guys, not with me. I've worked hard. I've got assets. I've got my life together. And I don't really feel like throwing that away for somebody at this stage of my life, especially when she's showing up with issues or multiple kids or whatever. So here's what, so I took 3 or 4 weeks off the internet. I think it was like 3.5 weeks. And I log back in, and what do I find? Ms. Thomas, Leah Thomas, booed after winning NCAA crowd cheers for second place swimmer. So again, Leah Thomas, who is the male that has transitioned into female, took first place, and the crowd was not happy with that. The women are not protesting, so I'm fine with this. I have no problems with it. The women seem to be okay with it. And the other one here is that USAA today named Rachel Levine Woman of the Year, and that is the Dr. Rachel Levine, the nation's first openly transitioned federal officer to be confirmed by the Senate. Woman of the Year for what? For making the transition. So, you know, I've been gone off the internet for 3, 4 weeks. I log back in. Nothing's changed. Everybody's still arguing and yelling about Russia and Ukraine and all these other issues. The internet is the same. So go out and touch some grass. Feel free to, you know, check in and see if I've written or done a video or something, but the internet's still the same. Now, Evie.com is a kind of a conservative woman's perspective on things. The women that write for them, I think most of them are married. They married young. They had a family. They're with their husbands still. And again, I'm not saying that your odds are better. Well, they are a little bit better with a conservative, but it doesn't mean that you're going to have a happy life and not get taken advantage of in the end. But your odds are better. Anyway, that's what kind of magazine they are. And they write, finding love in a culture obsessed with lust. Now, why I find this is interesting and important to read, because, you know, the crazy stories I do, I always want to take away for us guys, is that there are still women out there that would like a relationship, but the problem is they're not fighting back against the culture that is pushing for women to be free and rack up the body counts and do whatever they want. And because of it, they feel like they're losing out. I only skimmed this story. I didn't dive deep into it because I wanted to have a kind of a natural reaction with you guys. This is written by young Haley Lewis. Well, I say young, probably younger than me. We live in a time where lust is glamorized and true love is made out to be shameful and boring. Rising above this culture may not be easy, but doing so promises many benefits that far outweigh the struggles. My question is, I mean, if you were to tell me that right there, benefits for who? Because not many men benefit from marriage. Let's just be honest, other than maybe a family. They say 2019. When did they write this? I thought this was recent. Oh, this is from 2019. Oh, I thought this was the recent stories of. Well, it's, you know what? It's even worse now than it was then. So let's just read what they wrote then and see how much it's changed. 2019 is a time of quick fixes and instant gratification. That's the same. If something breaks, we buy a new one. If we're tired of commercials, we skip ahead to the content we really want to see. Everybody does that. Despite all of these advances, true and lasting love doesn't come fast and cheap. Lustful desires may seem appealing, but they cheapen the rewards of true love and leave feelings of regret, shame, and a still clear desire for real and meaningful relationships. That part really hasn't changed, only things have gotten even worse. But the reason why I think this is important, because many young guys, myself included, I was raised by a kind of like an open-minded traditional parents, and they said, hey, you find a good woman, you treat her well, you make sure she has an easy life, you're a good husband to her, happily ever after. And I did that, and that did not turn out so well, and I've done that in relationships, and it doesn't turn out so well. But the minute that I said, something, I'm tired of giving up my life for my relationships, I'm going to do what's right for my own life. I'm going on this course, I'm doing this, and if anybody wants to come along, they can. If they don't, you don't need to, but I'm still heading on my path. The minute I did that, everything turned around for me, and my life got much better. So I still think this is very important. But now what's interesting is that as more and more women start saying, hey, you know what, maybe this isn't such a good deal for us. Maybe all this womanism and stuff that has been pushed is failing me because women are getting into their 30s and 40s. And I'm going to talk about this in another video, why women suffer more in their 40s and 50s than men do. They're realizing, hey, this isn't working out for me. And the men are saying, you know what, love and marriage isn't working out for me because of the divorce rates and the number of women that file. So now kind of like lust is fine or nothing. A lot of guys are doing that. Now, some guys still find somebody special to be with. But again, needle in a needle stack. They say lust, what is even that? A word all but forgotten. Lust is properly defined as a very strong sexual desire. So what is inherently wrong about that? Experiencing strong desire is just our physiological human nature, right? While there's some truth to this, we are so much more than just our physical desires, and to say otherwise cheapens humanity in its entirety. There's inherent value and dignity in every person, and this dignity is comprised of mind and body, both our physical and psychological makeup. I mean, I agree. It's very poetically written, but I agree with this in some part. We are more than just the sum of our physical parts. Just like many of you look at this thumbnail and you go, I mean, she might be smart, she might be talented, she might be funny, she might be interesting, but either way, you look at that and you go, that's nice. That's just the physical reaction. The problem is, though, that it used to start out with, that's nice. I'd like to go on a date with her. She's smoking hot. Maybe she's a nice person. And then you get to know her. And if you find out she's a horrible person, you say, well, I'd still like to have some fun with her, but I don't want to date this person. Right? And I'm not talking about her specifically, just, if someone attracts your eye. And so you say, okay, well, she's not that great a person. I'll still have some fun with her, but I'm not going to be in a long-term relationship with her. Well, what happens when that's more and more and more than normal? People are becoming selfish and self-centered and rude and arrogant and narcissistic and worry about social media and what other people think of them so much that all they do is they become a hollow shell. They're a very attractive shell, but they're just a shell and something that nobody wants to be a part of long term. And as we get more people like this, both the top % of men and the attractive or even average women, they get into this world where they think they're special and they get the best. And so they never develop themselves. That's why some of the smartest, most interesting, funniest people I've ever met are traditionally not the most attractive. They're average, usually at best. Now, and there are exceptions. I'm not saying if you're good looking that you're an idiot and you have no value. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that, back in my day, in the early Gen X, maybe late millennial days, and of course, certainly the boomer days, your looks are your looks. But what you did with the rest of your personality and your sense of humor and your intelligence and maybe your money-making potential, all of that was weighed, and it was weighed along with your looks, and you were weighed as a package. And so guys like me, like I've said, I joke about this all the time. I'm like 5'6", 5'7", depending if I'm wearing thick socks or not, right? I was short. I started shaving my head at around 29, 28 years old because I was losing my hair. I didn't have the looks department. So what I said is, and same thing in high school, I was the skinny, scrawny kid that everybody made fun of. The only thing that's changed since then is I'm not scrawny anymore. I eat too much. But, I said, hey, I got to have a sense of humor. I got to be able to talk to people. I got to be able to fix things and be creative. And there were people that found value in that, but not so much today. And so all that does is leave lust because there's nothing to fall in love with. The personality is empty. They say in one of the most extensive studies on behavior, sexual behavior, psychiatric researchers noticed that much of desire stems from and is controlled by the region of the brain known as the hypothalamus. The same region of the brain is also responsible for controlling hunger and anger. We are always given reasons to control hunger and anger, and understandably so, but somehow sexual desire is okay to be left untamed. Scientifically speaking, if all three desires are being produced in the same area of the brain, doesn't it follow that it would be a good to restrain all of them or none of them? Obviously, we didn't let the other two desires run rampant, so why does sexual desire somehow get a free pass? It shouldn't. Now let's look at this. So you have hunger, anger, and of course they're talking about desire. Well, let's talk about the hunger one. All right, food is plentiful right now. You can pretty much go to the store. You can stock up on groceries. You can go to fast food restaurants. You can eat any type of food that you want at all times. And what has happened? The average weight, go back and look at a picture from people in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, even the 80s. What happened is other than the food pyramid getting all screwed up, is that food was plentiful, it was cheap, and it was advertised a lot on TV. And people said, hey, you know what? I'm going to eat. And they got overweight. And so weight has ballooned because people are not controlling their hunger, myself included. I eat more than I should. There's some sushi, right? Literally, I can look out my window and see like 12 restaurants. That's not a good thing. But when you don't control your hunger, you get fat. What happens when you don't control your anger? You get fired from your job, you get ostracized, maybe you get in trouble with the law. And when you don't control your desires and you go out there and you just be crazy with anyone and rack up the body counts, same thing. There is damage that happens. But most of the time they say, well, it doesn't exist until people are miserable in their 40s. They say logically it seems that our biological makeup dictates that sexual feelings should be moderated, just like those of anger and hunger. Unlike anger and hunger, however, the sexual feelings involve another person. When left unchecked, lustful desires have little to no concern for another person, let alone true and lasting love that's more than just physical. Women enjoy this when they're younger. They hate it when they're older. Men traditionally don't get it when they're younger, and they can enjoy it when they're older. It's very different depending on whether you're a guy or girl. We are thoughtful, emotional beings made of love and to be loved. The problem with lust and meaningless sex is that it only concerns our physical natures, leaving people's hearts and minds to be disregarded. When we are only concerned with the physical, we can fall into a dangerous pattern of relationships of use, using others and allowing ourselves to be used. This is the type of use rather than hate that is actually the opposite of love. And I agree wholeheartedly with this. When you look at a person, say, I'm going to use them for sleeping with them, both male and female. When a guy looks at a woman and says, I'm going to use her as a trophy wife, or she looks at him and says, I'm going to use him as a pay pig, take his money and I'll let him sleep with me every once. These are transactional relationships. A good relationship is one where you just enjoy being around each other, and you want to be with each other, and you want to sleep with each other, and you enjoy each other's company. But this is becoming more and more rare because everything is transactional now. A woman puts up a picture up of herself in a bikini and her, on Instagram or whatever, and her 600,000 fans give her thumbs up and likes and comments that are usually inappropriate. She gives them a saucy picture. They give her the validation that she seeks, but they're both using each other. The same thing happens in everything today. And so, again, the end result is that the only person that you can really start to rely upon and trust and not have to worry that is going to take advantage of you is usually, if you're a man, male friends. If you're female friends, true good friends. Your friends won't usually use you, if you vet for your friends properly. Your family, if you have a healthy family, but a lot of people don't have healthy families. And the number one person that will never do you wrong, well, sort of, is you. You're the one person that you can rely upon for the rest of your life, because as long as you're here, you're here. You're always going to be with yourself in your own little brain. And so if you do something that's bad to yourself, you can learn from that. And you can say, hey, I screwed that up. I need to do better. I really did myself wrong on that one. Then it's not a mistake. It's a learning experience. Only the people that keep making the same mistake over and over and over and over again to themselves and hurting themselves and then continuing on to do the same bad mistakes, well, they're their own worst enemy. And guess what? Doesn't that sound like a lot of people in society today? They say if left unchecked, our reactions and desires are almost always geared toward ourselves and our own interests. We're just naturally more in tune with ourselves than anybody else. Yep, that's true. They say wanting to fulfill, well, let me put it back on the article so you can see it. Wanting to fulfill your own desires is not inherently bad, but when we are solely focused on ourselves without any thought for the needs of others, we're no longer striving for love. We're succumbing to the ease of using another person. This is much easier to do in casual relationships and hookup culture where there's the driving desire is for self-gratification and personal pleasure, motivations which inherently use another for how good they can make us feel. And now they go in here like how to be a lover, but that part doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter how to be a lover. Me reading to you guys how they say put in the work, that doesn't matter. Yeah, you need to put in work. Yeah, you need to. It's a two-way street. Yeah, you need to be meaningful and care about each other. That's all very important. But you know something? It doesn't matter if you're the one that's doing it. But again, so many people out there are not. And if again, when I get off the computer and I go out in the real world, people are genuinely, or rather, for the most part, they're generally friendly, kind. They're interesting to talk to. There's not a bunch of blue-haired people running around yelling at everybody all the time, but the news makes it seem to be that way. In general, people are good. It doesn't mean that they're good to date. It doesn't mean that they don't have issues, but in general, they are. But when you start looking at the dating profiles that I do over here on Locals and on Rumble, which YouTube just seems to not like me doing, when you look at the dating profiles, when you look at the people that are specifically in the dating market and looking for somebody, when you look at married couples and more specifically women that seem to get bored with their families, or he's a great guy, but the tingles are gone and they start looking again. When you really drill down into it, these people are not good people. They're not looking for a loving, caring relationship. They're looking for something that is fast, that is easy, and that requires no work. So why should you put in the work? Why should you try? Why should you jump through all these hoops just to have a shot at somebody that may treat you poorly? It's that's why I say you better get pretty confident in loving yourself and worrying about what you're up to, because that's really what's going to matter the most. All right, for those of you on YouTube, you can join me over on Rumble. You can rumble.com, links are down below. You can join me over on betterbachelor.locals.com. Links are below for the dating profiles of the day, because YouTube doesn't play nice.